A ruthless demon had been terrorizing a deserted highway, attacking the people traveling through the area, killing them and eating them. Fear had settled over the whole region. On that same dangerous highway, a car was driving along. The people inside had no idea what was about to happen. Inside the car, a boy named Derry was taking his sister Triss home after their holiday. Triss had gotten into an argument with a friend and was still very angry. Derry was driving, and to cheer his sister up, he'd started a game where she had to guess the meaning from the license plates of cars ahead of them. When Derry read the license plate of a bus ahead, he told Triss it said F-E-V-E-R. Smiling, Triss corrected him. She said it read forever, not fever. Derry lost the game. Right then, a truck came up behind them at high speed. At first, Derry didn't pay it much attention, but as the truck drew closer, it blasted its horn so loudly that Derry and Triss turned in panic. They thought the truck had gone out of control. Derry quickly eased their car aside to give it room. After the truck passed, they looked at its license plate and tried to figure out why it felt so creepy. The plate read, "Beating you." Triss was shaken, and after seeing the truck, she nervously started talking about some of her friends. She told Derry that a few years earlier, some classmates of hers had died on this same highway. The authorities had called it an accident, but their bodies had never been found. Derry told her not to take it seriously, that it was just a rumor spread to scare young people away from drinking and driving on that route. A little further on, they stopped to freshen up. When they started driving again, they saw the same truck parked by an old church they'd passed earlier. The truck was sitting among the bushes behind the church, and its driver was shoving something into a pipe. The driver saw them, and both siblings panicked and sped away, but the driver got into his truck and followed them. Triss was terrified. She pulled out her phone to call the police, but the battery was dead, and there was no charger in the car, so they couldn't reach anyone. The truck kept following them and soon rammed their car, sending it off the highway into a field beside the road. They weren't badly hurt, but the back of their car was damaged. Derry used his shirt to patch the trunk and told his sister they should go back to the old church and see what the truck driver had been hiding there. Triss snapped at him, furious, saying he'd lost his mind. She insisted they couldn't go back and get into more trouble. They should drive to the next town and report the incident to the police. Still, Derry, with that bold, horror movie smart kind of thinking, refused to let it go. Despite Triss's repeated objections, he was determined to find out what was in that hole. They returned to the church. When Derry and Triss reached the spot, they found the pipe again. It looked like a well. Derry peered down into the hole. A strong, unpleasant smell came up, but they couldn't see anything inside from the top. He told Triss to bring a flashlight, and while he was listening, he heard a voice from inside the hole that chilled them to the bone. Triss ran back with a torch. Derry grabbed the flashlight and climbed down into the hole to see what was inside, telling his sister to hold his legs. His head went into the pipe while Triss held his feet. Then a bunch of rats scurried past him and he panicked. Triss panicked too and let go of his feet, and Derry tumbled straight into the church's cellar and passed out. Triss called him until he finally came to. He told her he wasn't hurt and not to worry, but as he came to, he saw a dead body wrapped in cloth behind him. Derry approached it in terror, and the body grabbed his leg. Summoning his courage, Derry pulled the cloth away and found a boy. Still alive, but his face was completely white, as if there were no blood left. The boy pointed to his stomach. When Derry pulled back the covering there, the sight made him sick. The boy was emaciated because whoever had done this had ripped out his internal organs and sewn his belly shut. The boy tried to say something. Derry strained to hear, but the boy died while speaking. Panic-stricken, Derry told Triss to run to the highway and get help, and if the truck driver came back, she should hide by jumping into that same hole. Triss set off toward the highway, and Derry began searching desperately for a way out. As he moved through the cellar, he found all kinds of things, old weapons and sewing tools. Not the ones used for cloth, but instruments clearly meant for stitching up human bodies. It was obvious this man had been doing this for a long time. On one table, there was a carving of a devil that only became clear when you looked closely. Derry kept going, terrified. His shoelace came undone. When he bent to tie it, something wet dripped onto his shoe. He swung the flashlight up, and the world tilted. The entire wall was covered, not with 10 bodies, but with 500 or 600 corpses, all stretched out and stitched together, hung there as if preserved by some method. Among them, Derry recognized 2 bodies, Kenny and Darla, which meant the stories people told about the highway were horrifyingly true. Meanwhile, Triss stood beside the highway near their car, hoping to flag someone down. In the distance, she saw a truck coming and panicked. She jumped into the car and tried to drive away, but the gear was stuck. She fretted, thinking she might even need to have have the whole gearbox taken out. When the truck passed her, she breathed a sigh of relief. It was a different truck. Then Derry suddenly appeared at the car window, startling her. Somehow he had managed to get out. The two siblings sped off immediately toward the next town. Trish asked what he had seen in the basement, but Derry barely spoke the whole way. He was too shaken by the reality of the story he'd heard for so long and by the sight of so many bodies. He did tell Trish about Kenny and Darla. They eventually pulled up near a restaurant and got out of the car, only to see once again that same truck heading toward the church. Both of them were terrified when they saw that truck. Trish and Derry hurried into a restaurant where they told the owner, "I need to use your phone. I have to call the police." Derry, shaken again after seeing the truck, was still rattled, so Trish tried to calm him down. They were talking when the restaurant phone started ringing. Trish answered, and a woman on the other end said, "Your death is near." She went on to ask, "Have you seen the cat yet? I saw you and your brother with the cats." When Derry heard his name, he took the phone and spoke to her. The woman asked him the same questions, then began giving him precise information. She told him his clothes were torn, that he was bleeding from his hand, and that the clothes were ripped where there was a rose tattoo. She also told him that the place he'd just come from is called the House of Pain, and she made it clear that the man who drives that truck is not human at all. She said the thing sniffs people first, and if it likes someone, it won't stop pursuing that person. Then the woman played a song called Jeepers Creepers, and warned him that if he ever heard that song, he had to run away immediately. And if he didn't, that monster would give him a death worse than anything he could imagine in his worst nightmare. Derry thought someone in the restaurant was playing a prank, so he hung up. Night fell, and the police had arrived. Derry began telling them everything, and that he had seen many corpses in the basement of the old church, and that they'd received a threatening phone call. The officers didn't believe him at first. Then the restaurant owner came over and told Derry that someone was messing with their car outside. Everyone rushed out, and Derry saw that all his clothes had been tossed out of the car. The owner explained that while the two of them were inside, a strange-looking man had been taking clothes out of their car and sniffing them. Derry picked his clothes up and put them back in the car. He called the police to inspect the vehicle. When the officers looked at the handle, they saw many strange claw-like marks on it. At that moment, Trish felt something and thought something had just flown across the sky. It was looking at her. Now the police believed them too, and they all set off toward the church. As they were heading there, something unknown landed on top of the police car. Over the radio, the officers learned the church was on fire. In the other vehicle, Trish and Derry were talking when Trish turned on the radio and began switching stations. And Derry heard the same song the woman had played to him on the phone. Meanwhile, the police received a fingerprint report that described the man's skin as rotten. It was decaying and flaking off like dust in the wind. Then they heard a sound coming from on top of their car. An officer leaned out and looked up, and it was none other than that same man who had flown there. He grabbed that officer and pulled him out. The policeman tried to save his partner, but the demon smashed through the roof, attacked the other officer as well, and dragged him up. In the end, he pulled out his axe and chopped off the officer's head, then threw it onto Derry's car, which forced the siblings to stop as well. Neither of them could understand why the police car had suddenly stopped. Trish got out of her car to check the police vehicle. That's when she saw the officer's head, and terrified, she immediately rushed back into her car. Sitting inside the police car was that same creature, and now I'll tell you his name. It was Jeepers Creeper. He stepped out of his vehicle, whistling his creepy tune like a cow mooing. Then he walked over to the officer's severed head, picked it up, sniffed it deeply, and pulled out the officer's tongue to eat it. Behind him was a billboard that read, "Tastes so good." This was the first time we got a real glimpse of the creeper. His long claws and something strange attached to the back of his head instead of hair. The sight was horrifying. Both siblings freaked out and immediately drove away as fast as they could. Trish was speeding recklessly, so Derry begged her to slow down. Instead of slowing, Trish slammed on the brakes and brought the car to a stop. They noticed a house nearby and rushed there, desperate for help. Inside lived an old woman surrounded by dozens of cats. Derry instantly realized she was the woman from the phone call, the one who had been talking about cats. But how did she know so much? The old woman already knew why they had come, because she had seen Jeepers Creepers 23 years earlier. The siblings asked to use her phone to call the police, but suddenly the lights went out. The woman nervously asked, "Is there someone else with you?" This shocked them even more, and when they looked outside toward the fields, they saw a terrifying scarecrow standing there. The old woman grabbed a shotgun and fired at the creeper, but instead of dying, the creature flew onto the roof and broke into her house. Because of her deep love for her cats, the woman followed him inside to protect them. Moments later, a gunshot rang out. Soon after, she appeared in the doorway. At first, the siblings thought she had killed the creeper, but then they saw the truth. It wasn't her walking out at all. The creeper had impaled her body onto the shotgun and carried her outside himself. Horrified, the siblings sprinted back to their car, jumped in, and tried to start it. But once again, the gear jammed. Right then, the monster calmly sat down in front of their car. But Trish wasn't one to back down. She reversed the car, then charged forward, hitting the creeper head on. Furious, she ran him over 4 or 5 more times until his body was mangled and crushed. His wings were shredded and he could no longer fly. Derry begged his sister to stop, and finally, they left the scene. Eventually, they made it to a police station. There, Trish spoke with their mother, but didn't reveal the truth. She didn't want to worry her. Meanwhile, Derry noticed dozens of missing person posters on the walls, realizing they were all victims of the creeper. Meanwhile, a woman named Jez arrives at the station and calls both of them by their names. They're confused. How does she know their names? Jez tells them, "I'm the one who called you at the restaurant. Your lives are in danger. I can see the future." She explains to Derry that she's been having strange dreams, and that's how she knows everything about him and his sister, because she saw Derry in her dreams. She warns them that even though they ran over the creeper with their car, it didn't hurt him at all. He has already eaten the body parts of countless people. No one can even keep track. Every 23 years, for 23 days, he comes back and feeds on human body parts. And whatever he eats becomes part of his own body, which is why killing him is almost impossible. She says that all the bodies they saw sealed under the church were his victims, kept like artwork. Just then, a truck pulls up outside the police station. It's the creeper's truck. As soon as he steps out, the lights in the whole station go out, but one of the guards quickly manages to switch them back on, while another guard goes inside to check on the prisoners. That's when he sees the monster itself inside one of the cells, attacking an inmate. The police open fire on the creeper, but it has no effect. Meanwhile, Jez keeps warning the siblings. She says she had a dream where one of them was screaming in terror. That means the creeper is going to take one of them and kill them. Just then, the news spreads over the radio that someone has broken into the station. The police split up into groups, and Jez tries to get Derry and Trish out through another way. One officer goes ahead to check, but he sees nothing. As soon as he turns around, the creeper drops down from above, grabs him, rips out his heart, and runs off. The officer dies instantly. The cops fire round after round at him, but the creeper has already reached Derry, Trish, and Jez. He grabs Jez first and sniffs her, but he doesn't seem to like her scent, so he lets her go. Just like Jez had warned them, the creeper only kills someone if he wants them. Derry and Trish run into a room with a one-way mirror. Trish looks into the glass, not realizing that on the other side the creeper is sniffing her. Suddenly, the creeper smashes through the mirror. He smells both of them again and decides he wants Derry instead of Trish. He grabs Derry and throws Trish aside. Trish begs him to take her instead, to spare her brother's life. The creeper stares at her with his horrifying face but ignores her pleas. Then, crashing through a window, he flies away with Derry. Trish chases after them, desperate to save her brother. But the monster soars high into the sky. There's nothing she can do. Later, we see the creeper back at his lair with the song Jeepers Creepers playing. Derry is dead. The creeper has ripped out his eyes and placed them into his own face. Finally, his truck is shown again, heading back out on the hunt. And with that, the movie comes to an end.